able to make it down for any of those spring practices?
Yes, I'll be able to make a few spring practices. Gonna try to make the main. I'm gonna try to make a few early, and then the main one they're gonna have one main spring practice in Miami. They're gonna have the biggest one in Orlando. So I definitely make those two, but I'm trying to make maybe two or three before then.
So we got Alonzo 1219 on the line. I got to consider that most of you know exactly where to find him, but if you don't, it's Alonzo 1219 on YouTube. So look him up, check out the videos, check out the talk, especially the live streams when he brings it at his very best, and contribute. So for you, that may mean you sacrifice one lousy cup of coffee for the month. For him, it's contribution that's going to help him keep it going. Same thing right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Whatever you can give us, we're going to put it to good use and keep this going. If you don't want this to continue, then don't watch and don't contribute. But we appreciate, in addition to that, the likes, the comments, share the videos, get them out there. You guys have influence, and you have friends and family and social media spheres of influence that we don't have. And so you can get the videos out there by sharing the videos, and start with this one. It will process and post as soon as we're done here. And if you missed any of it, you just wait for it to post, and you catch up to the first 5 or 10 minutes that you missed. So when we look at this football team in regards to talent, it's the best talent in the division. And that's the case every year, and has been the case forever since they joined the ACC. When you look at a transition of a new coach, a first-time head coach at this level, there's a transition to be made. But then on the flip side again, there are no dominant teams. There aren't even good teams in this division. So what do you expect out of this team this fall?
All right. This is the toughest question, but I have an easy answer for it. But it's the toughest question because people look at you like you're playing out like you're a homer, and I've never played homer. You know, I'm pretty honest on what I feel about the team. I feel like best case scenario for this team this year is 12-0. Like you said, we are more talented than anybody in the coastal by leaps and bounds. Um, I feel like what held us back was the offense over the past 3 years. I felt like we had the offensive talent, we just didn't have the execution and play calling. Um, so I feel like with Coach Enos, and like I say, listening to him, and he kind of reminds me of Manny Diaz on the offense side. I believe that I've watched a little bit of his film when he was offense coordinator. Um, he has so many different ways mismatched his talent. You know what I'm saying? So, and Alabama was going to make him the offensive coordinator for a reason. So, you know, another thing I like about him is he's not a real young guy, so he understands. He really understands football. So I feel like best case scenario 12-0. Worst case scenario is 10-2, because the two losses that I would look at would be to the Florida schools, and we would lose the state of Florida, and that's not a good thing. Um, don't want to lose to Florida or Florida State at all. Those are the teams that have as much talent as us, if not a little bit more. Um, so those will be the two teams that I'm worrying about. The good thing about Florida State is they don't have a quarterback at all right now. So um, I feel like, but they were smart by hiring Kendall Brown as the offensive coordinator. I think he's a great mind. I like him as well. Um, I feel like um, I call him my Uncle Drunker Willie. I feel like he did a great job at hiring Kendall Browse, understanding that he couldn't do the offense. I think that's what made him a little bit smarter than Mark Richt. He understood that he couldn't do the offense and control and do the team as well. So he hired a young guy, Kendall Browse, who I wanted to be at Miami, and but they don't have a quarterback right now, so they're up in the air. And Florida didn't really impress me last year. I mean, they won the way we won 2 years ago. You know, they had a couple of little blowouts, but they had tough games against Carolina and a few other teams that they easily could have lost. Um, and Carolina's trash, you know. So no disrespect. They're garbage. So I mean, and they're in the worst. They keep saying like they're in the SEC, but you're in the SEC East. You have Carolina, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Sirius. I mean, come on, for real. You don't have anybody in that division. Tennessee's only been good twice in the history of that program. Um, so I mean, it's nobody over there that you really have to compete against in the East, except for Georgia. You know, so um, those are the two teams that I feel like can beat us on our roster. You know, Virginia Tech can get us every they can get us just because they have good athletes and good coaching. But they're nowhere near as talented as us. So best case scenario, 12-0. Worst case scenario, 10-2. I don't even want to split with those guys. I want to beat both of them.
All right, Zoe, I'm going to challenge you on this one. So, this is the way I look at it. If you take every individual game exactly the way you just did, I totally agree. There is not a game on the schedule that you cannot win. And when I say can't win, I mean have a reasonable shot, not like a puncher's chance shot. We can line up with similar talent than Florida and Florida State. So you could go 12-0. And then all the other games are Duke and Pitt and Georgia Tech and Virginia and all these teams that are basically the 35th to 50th best teams in the country. That's about
Mhm.
where they are. They're in that range. They're not top 25 teams. They're in the 30 to 50 range. Talent wise, you're in the 10 to 15 range, 10 to 20 range, something in that range. You're better than all of them. So if you could line them up and play them on paper, you're going to win those games by 10 to 14 points. But I can't see you going through that schedule and not tripping up once or probably twice against those other teams.
See, the way I look at it is, I look at who's leading. I look at who's leading, and I said this 2 years ago. I feel like Manny Diaz is like, I feel he's cut from the cloth of Jimmy Johnson, Nick Saban. I just feel that way. Just listening to him talking. Listen, you got to realize what he did with a defense that was ranked in the 90s. His first season got him as a top five defense.
True.
You know, and with and not having that superior talent. You know, just coming off sanctions, probation, you know what I'm saying? Not having a full roster, starting three freshmen, you know what I'm saying, at linebacker. And to take that team that was ranked 90 in the 90s under the Narfield, and everybody saying how bad the defense is and how great the offense was going to be because the offense was actually pretty good. Um, he took that defense, and no matter how bad our offense was, he's in the three and outs, and we were three and out for the last 3 years. Every game, at least three or four three and outs, five three and outs every single game, and to have them ranked as a top five defense when your defense is on the field as much as they were is amazing, especially from a defense that was ranked in the 90s when he first got there. I think 80s and 90s somewhere around. I mean, we were bad defense. We were really bad defense, and people said defense was going to need time. And he's like, forget that. We don't need time. We're gonna dominate from day one. That's what he did. And we have all the talent in the world on offense, and we try to figure out why we can't get it going. And to bring in a guy like Enos, who I feel like can get we it's the game that we lost were close games, and our defense kept us in game. Just imagine what happens if our offense can score a couple points on the first drives with that defense still intact. I don't see. I just feel like I don't feel like he'll allow us to slip up. I don't think he will. I just think he's a dog. I think he's not. He's gonna prepare every game like it's the Super Bowl. I just feel like that's how he plays. And our defense isn't perfect. The one thing that I criticized him about was, especially later on in the season, it seemed like every drive, the first two drives of the games, we would give up touchdowns. And I have no idea. He adjusted well, but in the beginning of the game, he wasn't. I'm not gonna say they weren't prepared, but maybe a little too many blitzes, or not paying attention to the wheel routes and giving up touchdowns on the first one or two drives in the game, and then he kind of corrected that. But I just feel that guy's a dog, man. I don't feel like he's gonna allow them. I feel like he's gonna will them to especially get teams you're supposed to beat. I don't believe he'll allow that to happen. He's not Mark Rick who's gonna get up and say, "Well, I want to congratulate the other team." They jazz better not. He'll get up there. I think he'll slam the microphone. He's he's not. He would. I would not be. I would not want to be a player on that team if you lose to Duke. No disrespect to Duke. I love Cutcliffe. And Georgia Tech. I think they're gonna be kind of scary this year with that new offense. But I don't want to be a guy on that team that made mistakes and we lose to Duke or Virginia. I don't, or Georgia Tech. I don't want to be that guy. I'm
And that's
telling you.
football. What you're talking about is football. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean you don't respect your players. You don't treat them like people. Of course you do. But you get in people's faces, you challenge them, and you say, that's not good enough. We're supposed to win championships here. This has to be better. And you use some expletives if you
Yeah.
think that's effective or if that's you, whatever. But that's that's football. And we've grown a little soft. Um, the way we've raised kids and raised people to work out in the work world these days because people don't want to hear that. But that's how you deal with a football team. It's a tough sport, and so you don't coddle kids and then send them out to try to run through somebody. That's not the way that works.
No, you have to. I believe every person to a man respects on that team respects Manny Diaz. I'm just you look at Jeff Thomas. As soon as Mark Rick gone, who's back? I'm just
Sure,
being honest. As soon as Mark
absolutely.
Rick is gone, as soon as he's out the door,
Here he comes. Yep.
Jeff Thomas is everybody's. Everybody thought he was just going to Illinois. It was a done deal. It was done. And as soon as Manny Diaz takes the job, it's like, all right, we want you. You're a dog. We want to use you the way you're supposed to be used. And he's right back in. I mean, Manny Diaz he's done and said everything the right way. It's been kind of arrogant a little bit. He's been kind of cocky, but that's what you. I don't want that humble coach who Now I want somebody who's going to get out there who has a little fire in their belly and who's going to fight for those kids and fight with those kids and punish you when you're wrong and congratulate you when you're right.
We
And
want to
and,
see.
and an X's and O's guy, and the whole staff he brought on. You look at, except for Eno, it's a bunch of young guys who's hungry. He fired the whole offensive staff. I loved it. Guys, y'all wasn't good enough. Bye, bye.